Good day. I'm Guy Dankaz from the Idea Connector, and today I would like to welcome our panelists as well as our entrepreneurial intern, and we will be talking today of defining strategies that generate revenue for custom sewing for a custom sewing business. Welcome to all. First, let me start with the introductions of our guest and our intern. Esther Stewart is a Nisga'a First Nation woman, a mother of 3 and grandmother of 4. She has moved to Ottawa with her family a year ago. She is employed full-time in a government position. In recent years, she has completed a seamstress course in order to help her launch a custom sewing business. This is our third production with Esther. You may see the previous production by going to the ideaconnector.net website. In this production, we will address, with the help of our panelists, the money side of the business. Our overarching question is, what strategies must Esther put in place if she is to generate sufficient revenues to earn a living wage from her future own business? Now let me introduce the panelists. Ingrid Tiff is a member of the Mohawk of the Bay of Quinte, located in Ontario. She is an eco-fashion designer running her own company, High-Sat Tees Design, out of Seattle, Washington. She is formerly from Nippini, Ontario. Ingrid works with her client to showcase their individual style and flair, creating unique clothing and accessories for them, updating or redesigning favorite items, and altering clothes for a better fit. She refers to this as a wardrobe evolution. Ingrid has an industry from design brick and mortar store to selling on websites, working as a mannequin, model, being on the runway, and doing wardrobe. Now, the next panelist, Jacques Pilot, is a Métis-born businessman. He's been an entrepreneur for 25 years. He is president of companies and is the entrepreneur in residence at the Launch Lab Innovation Center, located in Kingston, Ontario. Welcome to all.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
My first question.
Hi, everybody.
My question will be to Esther. We've had a few discussions with experts and so on. Have you given more thought to the type of clothing you intend to focus on, and who do you see as your market?
I would like to thank you for this opportunity, and based on the information I received on the last panelist, which was March the 20th, I really appreciated the conversation with the luxury items. I think my audience would be anyone who would like custom-made orders. At this point, the way the position is for my work, I think that's the only kind of work I'd be able to pursue at this time.
Okay. I'd like to push the envelope a little bit there and see if you could give a few examples of the type of garment that you'd like to produce, and secondly, who is the clientele for those garments as you see it, and in what region? Is it across Canada? Is it in BC and Ontario?
Yes, I do designs from whether it's baby items to maternity clothes, sweatshirts, business jackets, rain jackets, formal regalia making, and I'd like to say I would like to see more incorporation with East and West Coast designs together. I haven't seen anything that ties the two together, and with my designs, I'm hoping that I'm able to um, gear towards a few people who don't mind the West Coast and East Coast together. They can also be separate. I have been doing studies in the museums here on as to what appeals to men, women, children, and whether they're in a working group or just as a personal custom-made item.
Okay. My next question will go to Ingrid. How important is working with a cost of good worksheet? And what should be included on that sheet?
Basically everything. So from all your supplies you're using. Okay. So basically threads, notions, all that type of stuff. Where you get your fabrics. But then you also have to think about your marketing and production time too. So those are the
Okay.
basics. But there's always going to be things that you add. But the thing is that you need to actually really state that from the very beginning and break it all down so that you can know if
Okay.
somebody asks you about a price later that you have a basic quote. And then if they want something specialized or custom more, you say, then that would be increase the cost by this. And that's
Okay.
something too you have to think about too when you're doing fittings. You have to decide from the get-go whether or not you're including that in your price or whether with each fitting you're charging them more.
Okay.
So do you understand that?
Yes.
Like it depends on how much custom fitting you're going to be including too. So
Yes.
because
So
that can
which
make a
is
big part. What?
uh, um where you mentioned the fittings. Usually we take the measurements
You're taking the
beforehand.
measurements yourself or are
Yes.
they taking them? Okay.
I
Okay.
never thought of the differentiation. Usually when they order an item, they send their measurements.
Okay.
Um,
I will tell you from experience that quite often people don't measure themselves well.
okay.
So you have to always think about
So
that.
to be safe, okay.
Be very specific about what measurements you need always.
Okay.
Okay.
Jacques, how should Esther go about figuring her other costs, those beyond the cost of goods associated to the home business?
There's she's going to want to track her time. Often um, that's me. Often the founder's time. I think that's me that's making the extra noise.
No, we're fine.
Okay, maybe I'll move back a little bit. The the founder's time, Esther's time, will she needs to track it, but initially when she's developing designs or if she's doing some research into new products, that time is not in perhaps your current products.
How about
And that sounds better there. And of course, you want to have a small cost for the space that you're operating in.
how about costs like space used and that type?
The
Yes, that's
as you equipment, if it's a sewing machine, you would spread it for ideally over the life of the machine, but more realistically, maybe 2 or 3 years. You'd like to divide it by 36 to get your 3 years worth of months, and you'd have a bit of money in each month for that sewing machine.
Yeah. Also included in there, Ingrid, would you include also your marketing costs and your sales costs and all of these things?
Oh yes, all your marketing, and then as I refer to it, as your propaganda, so your business cards, flyers, anything like that you've ever done, you need to always think about that as part of your expenses.
So all of those costs are to be included in the
And your final
worksheet.
cost of your item that you're selling,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
To get to your to get to your gross profit and your net profit.
Yeah. And then you always have to decide too what you're decide from the very beginning how much you would like to be taking home, percentage wise, which is going to be very low at the beginning, and hopefully it will increase. But
So
Okay.
isn't there some type of an issue with regards to pricing and cost when you're producing one of versus then a dozen of the same garment? And isn't there a loss of productivity or efficiency because you have of the one of? And what impact does that have on cost and pricing? And how can you recuperate some of that additional cost?
that's one of the reasons I say that you need to keep a really good track of everything when you do it. So every time you do a custom job, keep track of exactly how much time each thing's part of it's taken,
Okay.
because you do need to always be thinking about your living wage, right? You shouldn't be working and for hours and hours and making like $1 an hour. That's
Okay.
totally, you're not going to get ahead that way.
It's
Which
a
is
hobby.
the hard loop that a lot of starters and this sort of thing, that's what they end up doing. They're giving away their time. So you
Okay.
need to think about that from the beginning. That's not your goal. So
Yeah.
You
Okay.
and you should give away less of your time as you become more. You'll give away less of your time as you become more efficient.
yes. And when you do
And
production work, you're giving away less too, right?
and
Yeah.
and as you charge more, you will give away less of your time as
Yeah.
well.
But if you're doing a run of like 12 things, it takes you a lot less time to make each individual one than if you do just one, right? So that's where you
Okay.
have to kind of do a sliding thing. Just because it takes you a lot less time, it doesn't mean you knock your prices back a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
In doing research for this production today, I came across the digital world, and we know that it enables the creation of radically disruptive new business models, and it also does that in the custom sewing domain, from what I can see. We're starting to see a proliferation of online made-to-order sewing services, and business model includes creating new levels of efficiency by focusing on specific garments like shirts, jackets, pants, and so on. It enables the customers to personalize the garment, different color, perhaps material, buttons, threads, and all this stuff. And it also propose a specific selection of fabric so that the client, the potential client, can order swats of fabric for $1 each, and look at them and feel them and so on and so forth, and then come back to the company and make choices. All this to say there's a number of services that are provided. So how is a person in her own trying to compete with that, or how is she to compete with all that stuff? Perhaps Ingrid.
Those sites they're becoming more popular. There's still a lot of issues with the custom work of it. If you read reviews and that, they're mixed. And it usually comes down to the measurements again, because it's very hard to do accurate measurements in custom work, especially when you're sending it off and the thing's getting made in China and then sent here. So there's always going to be that. So it depends on whether Esther's going to always have an actual relationship with her customer herself, is something she's going to have to think about, or whether she's going to try to do more of the mass produced custom work. So
what?
And it's a good thing to research those sort of sites, because you can see what they're doing and how it's done. There's a few of them on there now.
So Jacques, some of the points that have been made by Ingrid just now, doesn't also limit, if you're to have a personal relationship with your clients, doesn't it limit the region or the geography of your client pool?
Certainly, there's only so many people you can have a personal relationship with to develop a garment specifically for them. As time goes on, you may be able to gain some efficiency, create a greater margin for yourself by shrinking down the custom component. Perhaps the garment. I saw your embroidery work on one of your other jackets. Maybe you just do the embroidery work and you buy the jackets from Asia.
Yeah, it all depends on how custom you want to get. Like I do a lot of my measurements with Skype across it, so I can see how they're measuring because that helps me. But you can also do it that you're working with just basic sizing and then go from there, which is also a good idea, because then you just do your site that you have everything laid out, and then they tell you which size they fit in, and then if they happen to tell you I'm bustier or hippier, then you can modify it slightly. That's the other way to expand your client base.
We'll come back to some of these issues shortly, but first I'd like to ask Esther if you would like further clarification on what has been said so far.
Yes, in the beginning when Jacques was answering about other costs, I'm afraid it was doing like what you said, it was echoing, and I couldn't hear any clarifications. So I was just wondering, is there going to be a script of this provided to us, Guy? Because I keep moving the phone around because I don't know if it's the phone that's giving me feedback or an echo. I don't know if it's just me or anybody else.
Yeah, it's recorded, and it's on the landing page that is allocated to you on the website, and you can find all of your content there. Okay. You'll find previous video there already.
Yeah, Esther, is there a specific thing that you heard part of that? And I'm sorry, it sounds like it's my audio that is driving it, making it noisy.
When we were talking about the costs, I heard bits and pieces about the costs when you were speaking.
Okay, so we talked about the cost of goods, which is all the costs, the fabric, materials, thread that would go into producing the item. Your time is outside of that cost. Your rent would be outside that cost. The cost of the space that you're operating in would be outside of there. The depreciation of your production equipment's outside. So you need to get to a clear picture of what it costs you to make the items. Those other, you would add them on for a total cost profit.
Okay.
So there's a gross profit and a net profit, and you and you don't want to be doing this for free. So you have to keep track of your time and figure out what's left over. How much net profit do you have if it's just you? How much net profit per hour do you have left over?
What sort of hourly wage do you want to aim towards? That's what you need to think about too.
When everything, all the costs are in, and you've got the difference between what the garment cost you to make and what you sold it for, that piece, that net profit is left for you. How many and then you could divide your hours into it and figure out how much you were making per hour to make it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, Esther, we can point you to a couple of references of worksheets and so on, so that you
Okay.
have the basic idea as to what it contains. Okay. So if we move
That
on
would
now,
be great because I think I undersold myself with my first order.
You normally do when you start.
And I've run a number of businesses, and it happens all the time. Yeah, you want to get to work, so you price
Yeah.
it too low to get the deal. It's hard to go the other way. It's hard to bring your prices back, to raise prices. It's
That
really
is,
easy
Okay.
yeah, it's really easy to lower them. It's really hard to raise them.
yeah.
Keep that in mind.
earlier on, Esther mentioned that she would like to uh, bring together various types of Aboriginal designs from various regions of Canada and integrate that in her sewing. I know, Ingrid, that you've had a fair amount of experience with these things. Where are the pitfalls and the challenges of doing something like that?
Well, with design work, it's one of those things you always have to think about, first of all, your copyright, right? Because that's a big thing with most art or artisan type stuff now. So do you have the right to use the design if it was specifically designed by another artist? Or are you using
Mm.
traditional designs? Like, I don't know which route you're going more. Are you doing more traditional designs or are you doing artisan
For
modification type stuff?
for the West Coast, yes, I have purchased my own templates
Okay.
from West Coast artists.
Okay.
I purchased my own templates, but I'm still studying on the East Coast on I've been searching out the materials that are available here. That's why I thought that I would
Okay.
start off with my own, and if there's a market
Then you would
that would.
want design from the East Coast and whether it's
Oh,
one of those
okay.
you
I
always have
hear
to think about.
you.
Yeah. Because they
So,
Okay.
may take, offense to it or whatever. It's one of those weird things you always have to have in the back of your mind.
so I would think for
Okay.
Esther's own protection, she should have some type of a short written agreement on the
Basically,
use
that
of.
would be the best bet. Yeah, a contract of some sort that everybody's said, we're okay with this. It's better to, as they say, close the door when you first do it than have it open
Great.
for.
Okay. No,
Is
that
there
sounds good.
something?
Yeah.
Is there something that you'd like to add on copyrights, Jacques?
Uh, we you have to respect the copyrights, and that would be that agreement that you're uh, trying to get from
Okay.
people if you're going to merge two designs together. That could be
Okay.
if you kept them separate, maybe a front and back embroidery work might be okay. But if they're actually in the same view, then they may take offense.
The doesn't also bring another question. When you produce garments, it's my understanding from previous conversation with you, Ingrid, that there must be regional allowances for taste and culture. Do you want to address that a little bit?
Um, yeah, basically, it sounds like Esther's starting to research things. I would recommend that she go to some of the shows in the Ottawa area. Like I know right now it is, which one's coming up? There is the original show coming up soon in Ottawa. And you may find other people that are doing things kind of similar to what you're doing, or at least it give you an idea of your market too. Because you want to do the higher end luxury good idea, right? More so.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I would check out the one of a kind artisan shows that are in the Ottawa area so that you have an idea.
Okay.
Okay. And maybe talk to some of the different artists, even ones that aren't necessarily doing native work, but people that are doing clothing that's more one of a kind.
Okay.
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 That's
Let's
always a big thing when you move or relocate. You have to do that to see
Yeah.
what your market
Yeah.
is there.
and I think it would be good to remember remember the Target stores experience in Canada, that one of the issues was that they did not respond to the regional differences in their merchandise. So let's talk risk management now. If custom sewing, how do you acquire fabric and trims since there's no return to the fabric retailer? How do you work with your client, Ingrid?
It depends. I have like a wholesale supplier for all my notions, and that's one of the big things to do is to get a wholesale account with someone to get that, because that makes a big difference that if you're getting all your threads and that at wholesale cost instead of going to a fabric store and picking it up. It also means that you're more likely to have the consistency of what you're getting. Okay, definitely for your trims, that's important, because I see that you use fringe and stuff like that in your work. So basically you should find a good supplier for that. You call them up and say, I need a spool of this, and they'll send it to you. Fabric, it's changed a lot over the last while. It used to be that sometimes you could put a hold on bolts of fabric with certain wholesalers, but they're not doing that quite as much now. The other thing to do is to sometimes approach a place and get the end of line fabrics available to you, which also helps with your cost. And the other thing is basically, if you want to really keep your cost down, that you have to limit what is available to the customer. Like, they only have like so many choices, that it's not sky's the limit. Which is where the swatch idea comes in well. But it basically does mean you're going to be spending a lot of money and investing in bolts of fabric, really, if you want to have it available. And that's a big expense that you need to think about.
So, if a person wants something very unique, something very different, how do you deal with that? Do you? It's obviously specific fabric. How do you manage risk there? Do you go to a store with the person, you send them a swatch, or do you collect the money in advance, or what do you do?
Most custom orders, I usually do at least 50% down so that you're not out of pocket. That's one of the big things there. And also, if they want it totally customized, then I will cost out the differences of a few different fabric choices for them, because then they're aware of how much the fabric choice affects the end cost. Because like if they want something made out of a polyester or a wool or boiled wool or silk, there's going to be a big difference in the price, right? So they need to be aware of that. So state that from the very beginning.
Now I really know I gave away my last order.
I'd add that the 50% down on a custom.
It is the most common.
Yeah, and with your suppliers, they will expect you to pay upfront for your purchases from them, but you should always be pursuing terms with your suppliers. Fill out their credit application or their term application.
And a lot of them will give you terms quicker if you have terms with one first. So basically find the easiest one and then, if that makes sense.
And that improves your cash flow. Makes your business far easier to run. That you're paying 30 days later for what you purchased from your supplier.
Though I will tell you that in the fashion world, that's not as easy as it used to be. So basically, most smaller businesses have a business credit card that they use in that manner, because a lot of the wholesalers now don't do terms no matter what, not unless you've been established with them forever.
So, let's now talk branding and marketing, Jacques. For Esther to launch her business and to make it profitable, or at least to earn a living wage, where should she start?
Well, you need some sort of a web presence. So you have, I believe you've been using Facebook for some of,
Yes.
okay, to promote some of your products.
Yes.
With
Yeah.
time, you want to continue to use Facebook. Ideally you want other people to post images of your product on Facebook, of them wearing your product. Uh, that's the best form of marketing. It's a referral. Somebody else is doing the work for you.
Okay.
Just posting images of product that you have available on Facebook will kind of overwhelm the story of other people, showing how happy they are with your. So your image. I'm not sure if you don't have a
Okay.
website yet, but at some point you need to create a website, some images of yourself, some video. If you know somebody who can craft a video of you working and then perhaps modeling some of a little bit of your wares, other people modeling what you've made. Take pictures of everything you make. Pictures are cheap.
Okay.
Because you never know when you're
Okay.
going to want to refer back to them, and you may want to build a section on your website of all your previous designs. You never know what will appeal to a online purchaser or somebody who
Okay.
does online research. They find something you made 2 years ago and said, "That's what I want. That's more like it."
So, Ingrid, with that idea of a
Okay.
website that contains various pictures and experiences and so on and testimonial, would you have a credit mode of payment, and how do you handle that?
You mean for ordering? Like
Yeah,
if someone's,
yeah.
yeah. I've used Shopify, which is actually quite nice. You can also try, I don't know whether Facebook's got that all hooked up yet. I think they're supposed to be doing PayPal, that you can do it on there. I personally am not a Facebook person, so I don't know a lot about that. Um, but basically start looking at different e-commerce sites too. So like there's Etsy, of course, because, and a lot of people will do it that they connect their Facebook over to Etsy if people want to make a purchase. But as I said, I know Facebook's supposed to be expanding upon all that. I don't know how far they've gotten. So
Yeah. Esther, have you looked at Etsy?
Have I looked at what?
Etsy? And the website Etsy, which is a kind of a one of a kind online marketplace.
and it's actually
Oh, okay. No,
yeah,
not yet.
it's
Yeah.
an easier one to set up a presence on. Um, it is also hard to get above the white noise of how many other people are on there, but it's a good thing to use as a link to send people over to see what you actually have for sale, instead of actually, as like Chuck's saying, to
Okay.
post what you have for sale on Facebook. Instead, you kind of send them over to the other thing if they want to shop. Because then in there
Okay.
you can have you can set up all your shipping expenses and all that type of like costs and that, so that it's all laid out for them. Because you can put that all in,
Oh, okay.
okay? Which then means you need to start looking into how you're going to do shipping. Like, are you going to use Canada Post? Are you going to use UPS, FedEx, all of that type of stuff? Because when you're
Okay.
doing shipping stuff, that's a big cost. And as soon as you have to deal with customs, that's a whole other one.
Okay. Okay.
And Etsy
Yeah,
will
no, I
help
never
you
thought.
actually go through that, and they have tutorials on there too to help you with all of that.
Okay. All right.
Ingrid, let's now move to sales and talk sales. In your opinion, what option does Esther have to sell her service and garments at the very start?
Um, what option she has to
Yeah, does she
make her
go
stuff more
to
available, or
well, yeah, to make sure that people know about her, to make sure that she's able
That's
to.
one of the reasons I was suggesting that she check out the different artisan shows and that in the area she's in now, or even out in BC. Um, and it's like what Angela said in one of your last thing, you're your best promoter. Like most people that are buying custom work or one of a kind work like to actually have met the person that created it or been involved in the creation of it. Okay. So they like
Okay.
to actually know something about the designer,
Yeah.
which is why I say that having a relationship with your clients is a big part of it.
Yeah.
So that is
Okay.
probably something you're going to have to work on. It's a lot of people call it you need to know your elevator pitch. You need to be able to do that 2-minute little talk that explains what you do and why they should want to inquire more about what you do and what you
Okay.
can create for them.
Yeah, when your elevator pitch is really clear and it's getting effective, since you get a sense that you're getting closer to a sale when you do that 2 minutes of talking gets you closer to a sale than any other 2 minutes of talking that you're doing. They should record a video of yourself. You record a video of yourself for your website. You know,
Yeah.
your
And basically practice it on everyone you know for the next while and see whether they think you're leaving something out.
the videos create
Okay.
empathy, a sense of shared emotion between the person in the video and the person watching it. They'll understand your reasons for being in this business, for making these garments, much better with video than they would with still pictures or a story that's written down.
Yeah, but then you also do need your mission statement and tagline type thing when you're working on a website. You have that little clip of that basic thing, and especially if you get into other social media, having a tagline is important. So just a few words that explain what you're doing.
Ingrid, once Esther has toured some of the artisan shows and whatever, would it be a good idea for her to test her product by herself, getting a booth at some of the powwows or other types of events?
Yeah, that is a great way to do it because then you see how people react to your work. And then you also do find out whether or not they are establishing a connection to you when you do your elevator pitch and whether they're inquiring about more and actually asking you like, how much would it cost for you to do this for me? I find shows very beneficial for that, but it also can be very pricey, especially for the artisan shows. And for the artisan shows, I wouldn't really buy any unless they are juried, which then means you have to think about what package you need to do the juried process. So that's something else to look at.
Okay.
But powwows would be a good method too for you. So.
And if you can find somebody to share a booth with, share the costs.
Yeah, and that's another thing that they tell you right from the get-go when you look at shows, whether that's allowed or not allowed. Don't do it if you haven't checked, because it can cause a big ruckus.
Okay.
Jacques, I imagine that the sewing business has the sales cycles not only similar to consulting. That is, you're busy as much as you can, and then afterward you go into a famine cycle because you work so hard you haven't had time to go after other sales. How should Esther proceed in order to sort of flatten out that cycle curve?
You should, like most businesses would, that are making custom orders, will also make some generic orders during the downtime. You will make your some of your best-selling items for inventory. You'll hang them up when things are quiet. So you're probably going to see a lot of sales in the fall. The lead up to Christmas is the best season generally for clothing sales. A lot of consumer items. They sell as Christmas gifts. you need some inventory that you made during the summer while people were on holidays and not buying to maybe fill that season. You'd sell a mix of what you've already made and the custom orders on with the lead up the October, November, December shopping season.
So,
They could.
go ahead, please.
Okay.
So, Ingrid, would it be a good idea if Esther does have a website for her to also sell accessories on that same website that complements her offering of sewing?
Yeah, that's something she could do. I do that a lot. I make accessories in my downtime, basically, because that's something that sells well at the shows. Usually, my accessories are what pays for my expenses of being at the show. And then the
Okay.
other stuff is more marketing and trying to build up custom orders, right? But when you do the bigger shows, you usually want something that covers your expenses. You have to think that way.
Okay.
And what people pick up at the shows normally are the smaller price point items. Like you want stuff that's like $50 and less for when you're doing a show.
Okay.
Just because people are quicker to buy it as an impulse item.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you do make those sort of things on your downtime,
Would
like
I
at the famine time.
would that be right to think that the margins on those type of items are greater than custom sewing?
It is because it's production work, and then I also use the ends that I have left over from other stuff. So quite often I'm using like extra fabric that I had left over from custom orders.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Esther, would you like to add, ask questions or go a little further in some of the discussion so far?
Everything said has been very educational and gearing me towards a bigger picture for myself. So definitely a lot of things to be cognizant of, especially when it comes to my time. I have found a couple of designer places that I could sit down with and learn on a timely manner for garment. I took the suggestions from the last time, so I appreciate all of the marketing tools as well. I'm definitely going to make better use of my time, so to speak.
Okay. So one last question. We've talked about pricing and the need to calculate costs and include all of these together in order to eventually end up with a profit. But how do you carefully balance a fair market value with your cost and your pricing?
That comes down to research. So basically, you need to be looking at what the median costs or prices are for people that are doing anything similar to you, so that you know what the market's taking right now. And you will notice it changes all the time. So, and usually when you start, you don't want to be don't aim for the low end of it and be giving your stuff away. I always say kind of pick the middle. So like, I don't know whether you have looked at any other people that do similar like coats that you do and see what sort of prices they have on their stuff. But then you also need to look at whether they're an established name or not and all that type of stuff. Like maybe that's one of the reasons they're getting the really big money for it. So
Yeah, yeah. I like to tell some of the businesses I meet have fantastic margins in something that you're doing because they're the only one, or it's a very small niche. Often it's technological, but sometimes it's just do something that is so unique that they have a bigger than normal. Don't feel guilty about having a great margin. And I like to tell them that lots of time margin. Then you've done your work, you've found a niche, you're selling into it at a great margin. somebody else is going to find you, find that niche, and start to compete with you. And then your margin will shrink. Don't feel guilty about a great margin.
Okay.
There's lots of time to have a poorer margin.
Yes, you always want to aim for a couple of items that have an awesome margin.
Yeah.
Not everything, but
You ideally in everything. So a thing doesn't have a profit margin in it. It's a small business die because they selling below their cost a little bit, and it just drained their business. They could not raise prices, so they did not introduce more products to that market.
you have to remember not to give away your skills.
Yeah.
We have are there any more questions that relate directly to, or issues that relate directly to Esther in closing? Because I'd like to move on to our online questions. Panelists would be willing to answer those for next few minutes. Okay, so as I've ordered some clothing, some charge. Charge more than 50% down. Sometimes the thing takes longer than expected. Comments? I suppose
So basically that's something too. If someone's ordering custom work, like establish what your time frame is going to be. So like, are you going to be able to do it in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, 6 weeks? And basically you need that structure and you need to stick to it. So, which is sometimes hard, because if you're really busy, then sometimes you get behind. Okay. But you need to always have that in your framework, so that if you're taking a custom order and you've promised it to them in 2 weeks, you need to get it to them in 2 weeks. And if you can't do it in the 2 weeks standard, then you need to state that from the beginning.
so. Jacques, credibility in business, timeline is one of those that helps establish credibility, doesn't it?
Certainly, you have to meet your whatever you promise in terms of a delivery schedule. You need to meet it. In the case of the giant online retailer Amazon, they keep shrinking shipping times down, but they have everything in inventory. In the case of a custom sewing business, you're going to, some of these are going to be purchased as gifts, so you're going to need to get them there on time for the birthday or for the occasion that they expected to wear it.
Somebody here online is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's some reason too with like gifts and that's where they have the option of being sometimes extra for express shipping too, which is something else you need to consider, whether you want to do that type of stuff. So.
Somebody online here is suggesting that perhaps some of the items could be baby hats, booties, socks for impulse buyers. How do you react to that?
I have a friend whose whole career has been in the clothing industry, and he keeps telling me to avoid children's clothing. because you can't. It's just as expensive to make, but you can't charge as much for it. There's a perceive. It's it's for a smaller person, so the price should be smaller. It's a tough market to survive in.
Which is if you do kids' clothes, basically the booties and the hats and stuff is the way to go, not to the whole outfits.
Yeah, perhaps that's the solution. Yeah.
Yeah. Do more the accessories for the kids if you want to do the kids stuff. Or like maybe do like every once in a while like a special vest as a single line, but you don't want to expand a lot into it. No. It's also the same problem with plus sizing is because people don't want to pay more for it, but quite often your expenses are higher. So you need to be working that into your pricing.
Okay.
Someone online there is suggesting that Esther, you gotta protect your skill. You can only give so much advice to people without getting paid.
Yeah.
On
So
those,
yes, you need to think about what you want as your hourly wage.
Yeah, add up all your costs.
Yeah.
and then figure the difference between that and what you sold it for.
Yeah.
How many hours are in there? How many hours of time went into that net profit? When you have employees, it would change. If you're working with other people, if you're paying somebody, that would go into your cost of goods sold in the beginning. But if it's just you,
Okay.
yeah, just you can work it that way.
on those words of wisdom, is there anything else that you would like to provide to Esther panelists? More advice, or have we covered the questions pretty well?
Well, keep your cell phone handy. Take pictures of everything you make. Take pictures of everything you
Okay.
make.
And always ask your clients to send you a picture of them wearing the item too. That's another.
If you can get that back from your clients,
Yeah.
that would be incredible.
Yeah, that's a really good thing if you can get it.
Yeah.
So, Esther,
Okay.
one final word from you?
I appreciate the education because this is a brand new for me on top of my work. I do appreciate the time that you've given me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank our panelists again, Ingrid Tiff, as well as Jacques Pilon. Thank you very kindly. Until the next time, goodbye.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.